Welcome to Cherry Tree Quilts. Thank you for taking part in our Cherry Box, our summer edition. We are attaching a video tutorial to show you how to make the beach bag. You are going to need the following sewing machine feet for this project. You'll need a 1/4 inch foot, a zipper foot, and a regular standard foot. We've included all of the supplies you need on the pattern that was included in your box. And one thing that you might want to add is some pins and matching thread for that project. So we do have a few bloopers that come across in our video, and one of them we found out was the mesh actually can create a bit of a picture quality issue. So we apologize for that. And the other thing that I mentioned, a little blooper, is I did say French seam, but it's kind of more like a faux French seam. So I hope you enjoy the project and have great fun with it. Thank you. Here is our bag. We've got a little folded up here because it's nice and deep here, and it's made with a beautiful mesh, and we've created some facings and a handle, and I'm going to walk you through all the bits. So I'm just going to move this off here for a bit, and we start with the fat quarter. And this is a full fat quarter that you'll find in your kit, and keep the selvage towards you just to give you an idea. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut a piece off the top for the handle, and then we can subcut our strips here for our bag facing fronts and our bag facing backs. So I've taken and I've cut my front pieces. This is for my zipper, and then I've cut, these are 5 inches and these are 3.5. These are our bag facing pieces here, and it has one fusible interfacing, and sorry, this is our handle with our one fusible interfacing. And the other things that you're going to need is a piece of mesh and a zipper. So we've included that. One of the handiest things to have with your project is the adhesive craft tape, and I'm going to show you how to use that. And of course we love our wonder clips instead of pinning. So there we go, our wonder clips. So we're going to start, and we're going to fuse our interfacing. We've pre-cut it out for the video. We're going to fuse it on here. And this is SF 101, which is a woven interfacing. It's really nice. And the next step to make the handle is we're going to fold it in half again. It's going to give you a nice sturdy handle. And then we're going to press it in on itself. Press in again. Just kind of cements our lines in here. We can give it a shot of steam. And then once we have that, we're going to turn it again towards each self. Give it a nice shot of steam. There we go. So now we can take that over to the sewing machine, and we can do a top stitch on either side. Before we go over there, I'm going to show you the next step. So we have our back facings again. We can prepare this ahead of time. One side will have the mesh, or I'm sorry, the fusible interfacing. Here we go. And then our second piece, and we're just going to set that aside for later. And then these are zipper facing pieces, and I've got these at 14 by 5 inches. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half. Here we go, just on one piece. And then I'm going to take my mesh, which is 14 inches wide by 28, I believe. So here's my mesh, and I'm going to take my zipper facing and I'm going to set it right on here. I'm going to use my Wonder Clips to clip it on. These are really great. So mesh has a stretch to it, so you just have to be careful. This particular one is stretching on the length. So when you're sewing, you just have to kind of keep that in mind. If we have to trim after the fact, we can always do that. So now that I have this on here, I'm going to take it to my sewing machine, but I have to sew with the mesh side up. And I want to do that so it doesn't get caught in my feed dogs of my machine. And also when I sew mesh, I like to use a smaller stitch length. I'm going to use my 1/4 inch foot, and here we go. So I've got my 1/4 inch foot on. I'm just going to lower my stitch length a little bit so it catches all the mesh. And I'm also going to do a back stitch. Come along here. Reverse again. There we go. So here I have my piece on. So now I'm just going to give it a little bit of a press. I'm going to turn it to my mesh side. I'm just going to press this up a little bit. Okay, and we're going to create a facing. We're going to bring this piece over just here. Give it a little shot of steam. Okay, and I can pin this as well. I'm going to use regular pins this time, just because my piece is a little bit wider than a Wonder Clip, just to kind of keep it in place. And then I can go to the machine and sew this down. I come over to my sewing machine and I have changed my foot back to my regular foot and centered my needle. And I'm just going to top stitch along the edge here, about 1/8 of an inch away. Come over to my machine and I can give it a little bit of a press. There we go. So now I'm going to prepare my other half of my zipper facing. So I'm going to fold it in half again. And just like I did the handle, I'm going to fold each into the center like this. And then fold it in half again, and I'm going to give it a little shot of steam. Okay, so now that we have this piece done, we're ready to add our tape to this here, which will allow us to add in our zipper. So we're going to apply our tape to the front. There's sticky on one side and there's paper on this side. So I'm just going to come along the edge here. And I'm just pushing it down. Let's break that off. So I've got this piece of tape. It's amazing. And then I can just come and peel the paper off. I still have my, and then I can bring my zipper in and I can lay it along the tape. Now when I want to lay it, I want to make sure I don't have this hard end of the zipper showing, because we don't want to at the end be sewing onto that. So I want to make sure that is off our piece. So I'm just going to lay it on. It just helps hold the zipper in place to allow us to sew it down. And then I'm going to bring this piece over as well. I'm just going to turn it around. And we're going to sew from this side just 1/8 of an inch, but I'm just going to put a couple pins in to hold it in place to allow us to top stitch on it nicely. Okay, and I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine and sew 1/8 of an inch along this edge here. So I have my zipper foot on the machine and I'm just going to line it up and sew 1/8 of an inch. So here we are here with our piece. I'm just going to give it another little press. And we can always trim up this bag a little bit at the end if our placement is a little bit off. So now we can go and we can add some tape to this piece and then apply this and then top stitch it down. So I'll go ahead and do that. If I'm a little bit over, that's okay. Now I'm just going to finger press it down. Peel off my tape, and now I can just align it up here. And I'm ready to take this to the machine and top stitch this down. I'm going to start from this side. And there we have our zipper piece here. So now we're going to get ready to apply our back facing to the opposite side of the mesh. So we've applied our facings for our zipper on 1/2 of the long piece. And now I'm going to add my back of my bag facings to the opposite piece. So I've already pressed this down about a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to turn one over this way. So this is right sides together between and with the mesh in between, and I'm going to clip it like this. And just remember to shorten your stitch on your sewing machine because we want to capture all of this here. So I'll take it to the machine and sew this down. So I've sewn the mesh between the two back facing pieces. So now I'm just going to push this out a little bit and iron it down. And I'll turn it over. Push this out as well. This is our back of our bag. This is kind of a fun piece. So now that I have this set up, I can apply my handle, which I've top stitched on both sides, into the bag. So I want to find center of my piece. So I'm going to give this another little press here. So I want to find center, so I'm just going to fold it, finger press it, and I can add a pin here just so I know that this is center for me. And then I'm going to take my two handles and I'm going to lay them in between the two facing pieces and my trusty ruler, and I'm going to be about 2.5 inches from the pin to the edge, inside edge of the handle. So then I can pin my handle in place. I'm going to do this opposite. You just have to make sure that this is curved the correct way. I'm going to again come in about 2.5 inches from center, put my handle down, and pin in place. So then I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch all along this edge. So I finished my back facing with my handles, and then this is my front facing, and I've brought it up to meet the back. Now previously I mentioned if I'm a little too close, and I was with my zipper end, I want to make sure I get rid of that because I do not want to be sewing through that accidentally when I go to the next step. And I've also double stitched across the end of my zipper to keep it from coming open. And I've done the same on the opposite side. So now I'm going to actually just trim this up a bit because I was just a little bit over too far. So I'm going to bring my ruler in and I'm going to line up to my bottom of my bag, and I'm just going to trim up this whole side. Now if I had a much longer zipper I might have avoided this, but this is what we do. So I'm just going to turn this around so I can take the same amount off the opposite side, and I'm going to line up to the bottom of my bag. Can't see it on camera, and I'm just going to trim this away because I do not want to be cutting, like I said, through those middle parts of the zipper. So now that we have our bag trimmed up, we're ready to actually sew it together. And this is a little bit of fun because we're going to do a French seam, which is a little bit different. So I'm going to bring my bag right sides together like this. Okay, and I'm going to pin the top so I have it nicely lined up on both sides. Okay, and then I'm going to stitch down both sides. So I'm going to go to the machine and do that. I'll be right back. So I have it on a small stitch as well because again we want to make sure we catch all our mesh. I'm just going to come down and reverse. So I've sewn down both of the sides. I've kept the top open for now, and we're going to French seam this. So to French seam, we're going to turn the bag right side out. And then once we have it all right side out, we're going to bring this over nicely, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch all the way down each side, and that creates the French seam. So I'm going to take that to the sewing machine and do that. So we've created our French seams on both sides, which closes in the ends, but this is still open. And if you had a second handle here, you'd have a 2-handled tote. But the last step to make this bag is to actually top stitch this closed, and that will give you your little zipper opening. So you can make lingerie bags like this. You could use this for your beach tote so you're not bringing the sand home. But here's our other bag that we've actually closed in. So now we have a really great little beach bag and for you to enjoy your summer. So thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this video,